Than a rare exception, you can't compare him. I'm fly as the skeegy airman. My patience is as thin as her pants. You find a sucker cat that's talking smack and I'll just dare him. Come at me sideways, attacking, I'm pushing back.
Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. Let's talk about Dynamite 200 from August the 2nd, 2023. 200 episodes of Dynamite. Probably only 4 of them are worth talking about. But we got some news and notes. You know, we're going to talk about Tony Khan. We're going to talk about the Elite re-signing. We're going to talk about some of the women complaining about the women's division in AEW. We're going to get into all of that. But first, we got to start with the head of the snake, Tony Khan. He's gotten to. Once again, there's a bee in his bonnet, and he's going to try to flex his muscle. What little muscle it is. All right, so somebody asked Tony Khan about this Triple H secondary comment. If you don't know, then I don't understand where you've been, but Triple H called AEW a secondary promotion in the Becoming Cody Rhodes documentary. So this is Tony Khan's retort. We're certainly won't be the secondary promotion at all in. We're number 1 in the UK, on TV and with a record gate. I have a lot of respect for Cody. I know these weren't his words, to be fair, but we're not secondary in a lot of markets. For the first time in a long time, WWE has been secondary in a lot of markets. I'm proud of where we're at, and we're not taking a backseat to anybody. Notice he mentioned the UK. As most people with functioning brains already knows, AEW gets higher television ratings in the UK because they're on free TV. Okay. They're the record gate at Wembley. Until people actually go into that building, I'm going to keep raising my eyebrow on that, and we'll see what happens. Let's say they do get, 100,000 people in Wembley. Good for the business, so that's fine. But the idea that you're not secondary when you can barely fill your regular television shows in the United States, come on. Come on. I think they were just recently doing a 4-for-1 deal on their TV tapings. What was this? Was this Dynamite or was this Collision? It was one of the two, and they were doing like family packages or whatever in order to move tickets. Look, I don't begrudge people who, you got to do what you got to do to get people in the building. It is what it is. But what he said, what Triple H said, is not offensive considering Tony Khan has said that himself. He routinely calls WWE the market leader. So now all of a sudden, WWE is second in some markets. Okay. Are they like number 2 in Uzbekistan? Is it like, AEW is like Kyrgyzstan or something like that? Is it like, in Paraguay? Please let us know what markets. You mentioned the UK. What about Australia? What about Germany or France or Italy or Russia or even Canada? Are you number 1 in Mexico? You're certainly not number 1 in the United States, where you're based, by the way. Are you number 1 in Japan? No, certainly not. Are you number 1 in Morocco? Where else are you number 1? What other markets are you number 1? Now understand this. If WWE was smart, what they would do is they would take this comment and they would utilize it in the MLW lawsuit. That's what they should do. Every time Tony Khan says something stupid, like we won the Friday Night War, or we're number 1 in some markets, they should say WWE is number 2 in certain markets, so we're not really the market leader, therefore we're not a monopoly. And they should just use that. Every time Tony Khan wants to come out and say something dumb, just use it to your advantage instead of arguing with him. There's no point in arguing with the guy. I mean, the money says what it says. Tony Khan makes money elsewhere. AEW, we don't even know if he was so proud of AEW, he would say what the gates are. He would let us know what the money is. He would, open up the books, show us how much money he's making. Nothing. None of that's going to happen. So I really question how he truly feels about the money being made by AEW. If they manage to get all of those people in Wembley, it would be incredibly impressive, and I will give them credit. But again, until people are physically in that building, I'm going to raise an eyebrow. And the only reason I do that is because I have heard before where AEW has sold out and the building is going to be packed. And then you go in and there's patches of people missing. And then you start hearing about scalpers. And then you start hearing about all of these other excuses. People are going to come in late. Oh, it was a rush hour of traffic. And there was a 10, 15 car pileup and they couldn't get to the building. There's going to be a bunch of bullshit. So until there's literally people in that building, I'm going to put an asterisk near Wembley. But like I said before, I'll say it again. I don't think ever in history has two wrestling promotions ever did 50,000 people in the same year. That's pretty impressive for the industry. So whether you want to consider AEW number 2, I just don't see how you can see as number 1. You know, he's choosing his words very carefully when he starts talking about we're number 1 in a lot of markets without specifying any markets. You know, he just says the UK without mentioning it they're on free TV. You know, so it is what it is. I don't care about what Tony Khan thinks about WWE or Triple H. He just feels like he has to respond because he feels like Triple H threw a shot at him. So now he's got to respond. He doesn't have to, though. Like, you're supposed to be setting up this huge event and it's going to be like this gigantic festival of wrestling and all this kind of stuff. Why in the world would you be concerned about that? I would not be concerned about that one bit. I would not give it one strip of damn about what Triple H said. You know, I wouldn't care at all. I'd be focusing on making sure all those people show up and making sure I make my damn money back. You know, so it's going to be a very expensive affair going over to London. But that wasn't it. We're going to talk about the rest of the news and notes as we go through the show, because I want to hurry up and get through this. So we all watched Dynamite, at least most of us did. And we'll just pepper the news and notes in as we go along. So the match 1, Chris Jericho and Konosuke Takeshita defeat Sammy Guevara and Daniel Garcia. This match had some storyline element to it because Jericho was facing 2 of his proteges. Don Callis hit, I think it was Daniel Garcia in the back of the head with a bat. And then Jericho saw that, looked a little distraught, but took the pin anyway, and was trying to sell his disappointment in Don Callis for hitting Daniel Garcia in the head with this bat. Even though, you know, technically you're not supposed to do that in AEW anymore. What is rules? Why did we put out that memo again? In any event, these guys, they had a match. I mean, I didn't really care that much. Daniel Garcia is really trying to get over with me with this dance, but now he's got this aggressive version of it where, you know, you chop him in the chest or something like that, and now he's, you know, aggressively dancing. You know, it's like it's gotten so ridiculous now. It's so over the top, and I can't help but laugh at it. It's hilarious, bro. Like, it's hilarious. I still think the guy is super boring, but he's trying to pull an Alex Wright where at least you laugh at him dancing. You know, that's the hilarious thing. So so after the match, Jericho was confronted by Fat 2.0, whose name I still don't know. And this Fat 2.0 fellow, he is the one who is going to call some kind of meeting of the Jericho Appreciation Society next week. I guess they're going to have an intervention, or they're going to confront Chris Jericho for what's happened here. Okay, whatever. Why him? Why that guy of all people? Why not Sammy Guevara? I feel like it would have made more sense if it was Sammy, because Sammy was in the match, and Sammy's probably closer to Chris than Fat 2.0. I'm sorry, Chunky 2.0, Husky 2.0, Plus Size 2.0. Which one do you prefer? Let's go with Plus Size 2.0. That guy. I don't know his name. That fellow, he's not as close to Jericho as Sammy Guevara is. And I think Jericho probably would have been more upset if Sammy Guevara was the guy that was confronting him. So, at least it was a storyline involved with this match, even though I didn't care about it, you know, and it is what it is, I guess. Tony Khan did a big thank you. There was a vignette showing Dynamite and all of the history within it. It was a nice little package. It probably could have been better, but it just felt like a regular video package with some history stuff in it. But he thanked, you know, all of the people behind the scenes and everything that had worked on Dynamite. I thought it was very classy. He was blinking, so that was nice. So Jack Perry, he comes to the ring. Oh my God, he's so boring. Oof. I'm trying to cut him some slack, y'all. I really am. I really am trying to throw Jungle Boy some bail, but my goodness. Anyway, he says that he gave Jerry Lynn a full week to prepare. Now he needs to come out here and take his ass kicking like a man. Jerry Lynn came out there and says that Jungle Boy ain't running the show, and beating him up would be basically child abuse. But with all the screws and plates in his neck, there's no doctor in the world that would clear him. He says, but he knows somebody who wrestled in ECW and happens to still wrestle now. So he called his friend. And then, next you know, Pantera's Walk starts to play. And Rob Van Dam comes out there. And I was like, wow. I said last week that it should be Rob Van Dam and had no earthly idea that it would actually be Rob Van Dam. So, look, it's always cool to see Rob. He dyed his hair. So you see substantially less gray than you should. He's a little on the chunky side, but he's older. He stares down Jungle Boy. Jungle Boy flees. He shakes hands with Jerry Lynn, does the big RVD. Then Jungle Boy comes back with a chair. He tries to hit Rob Van Dam with it. Rob ducks him, tries to spin kick him. Jungle Boy rolls out of the ring and then flees through the crowd. So, okay. Backstage, Rob Van Dam explains that he likes to win championships, inflates the value of them, and then retire them. And he's going to do that to the FTW title. And he challenged Jungle Boy to a match next week. So we're not going to save this at all. Because there was a fake list floating around saying that Rob Van Dam was going to wrestle Jungle Boy in Wembley. But I guess that was just bullshit. He's going to wrestle him next week. Okay, fine. Look, it doesn't matter either way, So, Rob Van Dam, my goodness. Pantera Walk, by the way, is like the indie wrestling song in the entire world. I think like every other indie wrestler uses Pantera Walk for their entrance. I don't know how many times I've turned on some kind of indie show and I hear Pantera's Walk. It's like, wow, it's the most indie show there is. And for Tony Khan to spend money on that show and for Rob Van Dam to come in, and I don't know if he's going to be full-time. I haven't checked Twitter, so I don't know if he's got an all-elite banner or not. But spending that kind of money for a guy who's not going to be there very long seems, I don't know, extravagant to me. Maybe I guess he's just trying to, bring in the older crowd, which has always been Tony Khan's thing, is he keeps trying to get the lapsed fan, that guy who's 42 years old and haven't watched wrestling since 1999 to turn around and start watching this stuff, which is not the same wrestling as he was watching in 1999 or 1998 or whatever. But whatever. Rob Van Dam, love him. He's not nearly what he used to be. Even if you watched him in the later days of Impact, which wasn't that long ago, it was probably like 4 years ago. But he ought to be competent enough to get something out of Jungle Boy and to be able to help him out. Give him a hell of a rub, too, because it's a very special opponent. Clearly, I don't think Rob is going to beat him. And probably he shouldn't beat him. But that's kind of puts a little bit of a damper on it. Like, to see Rob Van Dam come in just to do a job seems kind of... especially since he was known as No Job Rob and Impact, to see him come to AEW and be like, yeah, I'll put the young kid over. And then if you're going to use Rob Van Dam to put somebody over, why on earth would it be Jungle Boy? Why? Like, you could have had Rob Van Dam versus CM Punk. You could have had Rob Van Dam versus Jon Moxley. You could have had Rob Van Dam versus Kenny Omega. You could have had Rob Van Dam versus pretty much anybody on your roster. Anybody of, certain levels, like a Darby Allin or something like that. Jungle Boy? Oh, I don't know about that, dog. He wouldn't have been my first choice. Wouldn't even been in my top 10 choices. Probably wouldn't even been in my top 12. He probably wouldn't even been in my top 15, if we're being honest. But let's just move on. Before I go to the next subject, ECW reunions. every single wrestling promotion seems to be doing them, right? Every single wrestling promotion seems to want to bring in ECW guys, the ones who are still alive, the ones who are completely drugged out or cracked out or anything like that. Rob Van Dam might be the last one left to do a reunion with, but my God, Impact was doing them for like what it seems like a decade. It seemed like every couple of months they were doing some kind of ECW themed show or ECW reunion. I know WWE they got it in their blood, after One Night Stand. That maybe we should do a weekly show after they did the first 2 One Night Stands. But then they quickly got off that. They realized nostalgia, it was like a hit of crack. It was great, but you come down off of that really quickly. But other companies seems to really want to tap that ECW nostalgia vibe over and over and over again. And it seems like AEW now has decided that they're going to hit that pipe. And good luck with that. Good luck with that. Hopefully it's just Rob Van Dam. It's not going to be, obviously not going to bring in Raven. They're not going to bring in Shane Douglas. Both of those guys are done. Taz is done. Who else are you going to bring in? New Jack is dead. Sandman is like toasted completely. What are you going to do with him? So ECW's on his last legs. This might be the final ECW reunion thing. There's no Terry Funk for you to squeeze the blood out of anymore. So if you're an ECW fan, you're probably looking at the last vestiges of that right now. Okay. Anything goes. Trent Beretta defeats Jon Moxley and Pentagon by pinning Pentagon after he steals Jon Moxley's finish. My goodness, don't you see why I hate triple threat matches? They always end the same way. And why the fuck is Trent Beretta winning this match? He's in this match to take pins. Why is he winning? Anyway, they did all kinds of stuff. They had the dumb tacks, the trash cans, the tables, barbed wire, fake barbed wire, of course. The impressive spot was the superplex through the table by Trent on Moxley from the top rope. That was pretty ill. Other than that, it was pretty standard Jon Moxley match. I want to talk about something that was pretty funny in the middle of this match. Well, there's 2 things that were funny. One, I was nodding off during this match. I was extremely bored. This match was boring. I know that, how could you be bored by a match that had dumb tacks and barbed wire? They had this shit all the time. I don't care about anybody in this match. I don't care about this feud. I like Pentagon and I like Jon Moxley. I would have watched it if it was just the 2 of them wrestling. I would have been fine. But when you had Trent Beretta in it, I was dozing off. All right. I was like, oh my God, this sucks. And I can't believe it was so long. Of course, this match was too goddamn long. Of course it was. Anyway, where was I going with this? Okay. So the finish. After Trent Beretta steals Jon Moxley's pin, the Blackpool Combat Club come out there. They start fighting the best friends in the crowd. They're falling all over the audience and throwing each other over the banisters and all this kind of stuff. Then Orange Cassidy hits an orange punch on Moxley, who sold it like he was, like he had bit into the hottest pepper possible. He didn't look like he got punched in the face with like a finisher, though. It looked like this guy had bit into a jalapeno pepper without, like as a joke or something. Not like he routinely eats jalapenos, but maybe he thought it was peanut butter and it turned out to be like a habanero pepper. And he was like, oh, and then that was it. I was like, what the hell? What kind of selling is that? He didn't even take a bump. He just kind of rolled out of the ring. He just got a roll. I was like, is he a road warrior? Like, what is happening? Why did he sell it like that? It was so dumb. It made me laugh so hard, though, because he clearly just did not give a shit about selling that guy's finisher. That ruled. Burying Orange Cassidy's finisher, that rules. All right, so that other guy in Best Friends, not Orange Cassidy, not Trent Beretta, the other one, he challenged Moxley and Claudio to a parking lot fight at Daly's place on Rampage. Good luck with that. I'm not watching that. I heard Rampage ain't doing so well, y'all. I heard Rampage is not doing good. I heard it's got like under 400,000 viewers now. Oof. And routine. They have their own roster essentially. Like the Hardys are always on there, and Keith Lee's always on there, and Swerve is always on there. They seem to have their own roster, because AEW has such a huge roster. People vanish in thin air, and they still can't even get 400,000 viewers, barely. My goodness, what is going on there? But let me tell you, the Best Friends, not good enough to get me to watch it. I ain't watching it. Also, let's talk about MJF, Adam Cole. Really long segment in the ring where MJF gives us another variation. Variation number 722 on why he's a dickhead heel. It's because he got hit with some quarters and called Jew Boy. That's his new one. A bunch of probably blonde-haired, blue-eyed, white kids from, where was this, Long Island. I'm talking about the most Aryan-looking kids possible. Had a roll of quarters, and they threw them at him and said, "Scoop him up, Jew Boy." Oh boy. And they knocked off his little hat, and then all of a sudden he was like, "Oh, the world is such a dangerous and horrible place. I need to be a jerk in order to protect myself." I'm like, come on. Get out of here, man. Anyway, he talked about his ADD and how he's got a rejection, something disorder. He's been bullied and cheated on and pissed on and pistol whipped and all that. Like, come on. Just get to the point. He's talking about how he's scared of vulnerability, and because he thought that if you reject me, it's going to make me even worse. But now the fans have made him okay with his vulnerability. The fans showed them that they care about him. They care about Max. And so he says he's not going to change overnight, but he's still a scumbag, but he's ready to be your scumbag. He says one person showed him what it means to have a friend, and that's Adam Cole. So Adam Cole comes out there, tells MJF he's very proud of him, tells MJF that he appreciates his sharing and that he's not alone, that he too was a jerk, and he too was a jerk because he was scared to become a man. He didn't know what kind of man he wanted to be. I'm like, oh Lord, what the hell? So then they get to the point where Adam Cole says that people like MJF. He's somebody that they want to cheer. And that was nice. Okay. Then MJF says that he didn't come out here to do all of this, oral fellatio onto each other. He came out here to keep his promise. And then he says that Adam Cole does not deserve a match for the world title. He deserves the match for the world title and offers him the main event of All In. So the main event of All In, the first match announced, Adam Cole versus MJF for the World Heavyweight title. They shake hands, they hug. Everything seems to be going great. Then Roderick Strong is backstage, about ready to cut Adam Cole's tires. And, that bitch better not be around my kids and all this kind of other stuff they got going on back here. And then, for the love of Pete, Matt Taven shows up. Oh, my God. Matt Taven. What the fuck? Anyway, he says that Adam Cole has forgotten who his real friends are. And Roderick Strong, as he was standing there, adjusting his bonnet and getting real upset, he heard Matt Taven. And it seemed that the words had seeped into his brain. That maybe he's been forgotten. Maybe he's not appreciated as Adam Cole's friend. All right. So I made a mockery of this MJF thing because I'm tired of hearing about his ADD and all of his myriad disorders. I'm tired of hearing about how he was bullied one minute and then he was driving the fanciest Ferraris the next. How he was on the football team, but also he was getting pelted with quarters. How he was forced to live in the ghetto. How he survived the Holocaust and all this other garbage. I'm tired of hearing that shit, man. We've been listening to MJF switch his origin story for 4 fucking years. Enough. Enough. We need to have less of this. In any event, him being completely disingenuous, talking about how he's going to change and all this kind of stuff. We're all just sitting back waiting for the hammer to drop. And that's really what all of this stuff is about. It's trying to make the eventual turn mean something. Now, I do question going into All In as babyface versus babyface. And maybe they'll do the turn in the match. which, seems like it'll be a good place to do it, especially if you're going to have 60, 70,000 people in the building, to get them to believe that they're both friends. And that's how MJF is going to get Adam Cole's guard down, and then he's going to screw him in the end. That could be fun. That could really mean something, in the big picture. So I appreciate that Tony Khan has kept it fairly subtle in terms of who's going to turn on who. I also appreciate the restraint in not breaking them up, because I know a lot of people would have broke them up after they lost in the tournament. I probably even would have broken them up then. But he showed great restraint by not breaking them up, and now trying to utilize the fact that they are still drawing and, making money and selling t-shirts and stuff, and trying to utilize that to make a big moment at his pay-per-view, which is what we've been telling this fool to do for 4 fucking years, but he keeps doing this. Oh, well, I could just throw it on Dynamite, So as long as he restrains himself and then he brings out whatever it is he's going to do, he does it at All In the front of the biggest audience possible, this might be good. And even if it's not MJF turning it, but it's Adam Cole turning, or whether it's Roderick Strong finally snapping and getting involved, something definitely needs to happen at All In. It doesn't need to happen on Dynamite before then. You got just a couple more weeks. Keep it in your pants a little while longer. But it better not be lame. What would be lame? It would be lame if they wrestled the whole match, babyface versus babyface, and one of them win, one of them loses, and then that's it. That would suck. Okay? Because the reason why everybody is really into this is, partly because they become invested through the vignettes and things like that. But also they're waiting for the turn. They're waiting for something to happen. There's anticipation in the air every time. And they keep teasing it, where MJF threatens to hit Adam Cole in the back with the belt. This week he teased him a little bit by saying, you don't deserve the match. People are anticipating when MJF is going to turn. They're waiting on that. And when you build up that anticipation, you do have to deliver, So I would say you got 3 weeks or something like that. Hold on to it. Just hold on to it as long as you can. But I don't want to hear any more MJF childhood stories. I don't give a damn anymore. I feel like I can write MJF's biography after listening to all of his origin stories. The guy's like 27. Get over it, bro. So the next match is the Elite versus Jeff Jarrett, Jay Lethal, and Satnam Singh. Okay, so whoo-wee baby. Wow. I could not have cared less about a single match. Oh, my goodness. Poor Jeff Jarrett. Oh, poor Jeff Jarrett. Anyway, the Elite win. The less said about this, the better. It sucks. Satnam Singh sucks. Sanjay Dutt was on my television screen, which made me want to peel my own skin off my arms. I was not happy with this. Then there was all 100 run-ins. The Hardys had a run-in. Brandon Cutler had a run-in. Hangman Page had a run-in. I'm like, what is this? Just end this shit. Get this shit over with. So it was over. One Winged Angel on Jay Lethal. I praise God for it ending and me surviving it. The less we say about it, the better. This match sucked. Then they got on the microphone, and Hangman Page announced that the Elite has re-signed with AEW, as if there was ever going to be any other option. Literally like there's going to be any other option. So let's talk about that, since it's a topic of discussion for all of you young people. I of course, being of big IQ that I have, I did not consider that they were going to go anywhere else. There's just nowhere. Where were they going to go? There was just nowhere for them to go. WWE is not going to treat them the same way. So if you read the Sports Illustrated article, it comes down to one thing really, and that was the schedule. Most of these guys have children, and they, I think it might have been one of the Young Bucks said that it's more important for him to make memories with his family than it is to make memories in wrestling. And so he decided that he's going to stay where he can, spend the most time with his family, which makes sense. And if you're going to be the EVPs of the company, and which they retain their titles, by the way. So if you're going to be the EVP in the company and you're going to make a ton of money, then yeah, you can make that argument that you're definitely not going to go anywhere. But this is what Matt Jackson said. This is kind of what I was like, wow, this is something. Matt Jackson says, quote, "We're literally the E in AEW. The Elite are the main characters of this company. No matter how different AEW is now from its original inception, we are the DNA. And if you lose the foundation of your home, it eventually collapses. It'd be a lie if I said that didn't weigh on us when making this decision." Think about what he just said. He said the obvious, but he said the obvious in public that we are the main characters of this company. We are the foundation. You can't do this without us, which is basically what I was saying. I'm considered a troll when I say it. People think I'm full of shit. CM Punk is a bigger draw. You can completely get rid of the Elite. Shut up. There's no way that was ever going to happen. Shut up. Shut your mouth. There was just no way the Elite were going to leave. For starters, they are the main characters in the company. Everything that involves this company involves the Elite and their friends. Have you not been paying attention? Almost all of the guys who are super featured on this show are either fans of the Elite, the people the Elite are fans of, or people they've been friends with for a really long time. Most other people barely even get any time on this show. Why do you think CM Punk has been outcast to this Collision show? And look, there's nothing wrong with Collision, but why do you think it exists? It exists so that the Elite can continue to be the main characters of this show, which they are. And as the EVPs, they make the most money and they can do whatever they want. WWE cannot offer them that. Even if there was a negotiation, what could WWE possibly give them? That would be, one, give them free time to play video games and to spend time with their family. And B, give them the backstage authority to dictate who they work with and who get pushes and who don't. They don't have that kind of stroke in WWE. You stay where you got the stroke. They got the stroke in AEW, they stay there. It's smart. Shouldn't have been anything controversial about it. But you have a lot of Elite fans thinking that WWE really wanted these guys. Oh, they could have offered them so much money and they're so loyal to us. And it's like it's a cult. No. They were never leaving. We know they were never leaving. So the idea that they were ever going to leave, why did that ever cross your mind? Stop being stupid. Next, Swerve and AR Fox. Now, I loved this legitimately. Swerve and AR Fox. Swerve says that you want to know why AR Fox did what he did, and he stepped aside and let AR Fox talk. And AR Fox says that he didn't get a thank you when Darby Allin got signed. And matter of fact, he didn't hear from Darby Allin for 5 years after Darby Allin got signed. He said, but I didn't see you until I got here. But, I made it on my own. And I was like, okay, makes sense. I'm down with that. And then they took it to the next level by saying, Swerve said, like, Darby likes to make movies. I made my own little movie. And then he pitches to this scene where they fully explain that Nick Wayne has been on the internet talking about his training times and where he trains at and all this kind of stuff. And so they decided to visit the Buddy Wayne Academy, which is essentially a chicken coop with a ring in it. And all of a sudden, there's a couple of birds in there. That Nick Wayne kid is like incredibly skinny. He's like McLovin. He's so skinny. And Swerve is skinny, but he's pretty well built. He's basically about ready to huff and puff and blow the whole goddamn building over, this barn, this shack that they're training in. And he's walking around in there saying like, oh yeah, I've never been here before. I've never been inside the Buddy Wayne Academy. And then so he gets in the ring, he takes a little jacket off, gets in the ring, and he said, come on, Nick, come here and train me. He said, train me like your daddy did. So then they jumped Nick Wayne. They beat the tar out of him, beat the tar out of the other guy. Then Nick Wayne is trying to crawl over to his cell phone. He's going to call Darby, who's going to apparently appear out of nowhere. Like, even if you called him, how long is it going to take for him to get there? Come on. So AR Fox and Swerve, they catch him. They force him to unlock his phone, which is, I think, incredible. They forced him to unlock his phone. They beat him bloody, then told him to unlock his phone. Then they called Darby and said, hey, see how easy it is to make a phone call? Why couldn't you make a phone call when you made it all those years ago? Then Swerve told Darby that he is the ghost of his past and they're here to haunt him. And I gotta tell you, bros, this is probably one of my favorite things from Dynamite ever. This fucking ruled. This kicked ass. I believed it. It was off a location, but it was still in wrestling and involved all of the characters we've been using so far. Darby Allin, he's not visibly on screen, but he's still there because he's on the phone. We see Nick Wayne, who we know the story. We know why he's in that building. We know who he is. We know the significance of that building to him, being that it was his dad's training facility or whatever. And then he got jumped while training. He got surprised. These guys are like really asshole heels. I love this. This worked. This rules. This kicked ass. This is what AEW needs to be more of. Do more stuff like this. The Darby Allin extended universe is working for me. I like it so far. Thumbs up. Can't say enough good things about it. What doesn't work for me, however, is Aussie Open. What a joke. Again, two generic white boys who just happen to wrestle in Japan a lot are now all of a sudden considered good and big stars, and they're the Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions? Look, I don't care about this. They're wrestling El Hijo del Vikingo and Commander. So I know who's going to win because you're wrestling two luchadors who aren't really even a tag team. We wasted our time, probably about 10 to 12 minutes watching El Hijo del Vikingo and Commander do all kinds of flips. They did the double rope walk acai moonsault joint, which actually was not too bad. It was actually looked pretty cool. But I knew who was, Aussie Open was going to win because, New Japan and AEW love their generic white boys. And so, therefore, generic white boys win. Yay. Let's move on. So, the main event of the evening was Toni Storm versus Hikaru Shida, which some people probably complained that it had no business being in the main event, but this is Dynamite. Most importantly, however, this comes on the heels of the most important fan sign in the history of fan signs, and that is to book the women's division better. So Tony Khan's response to booking the women's division better is to put them in the main event of Dynamite 200. Now, he decided not to really give them a storyline, but to put them in the main event anyway, because book the women's division better. And then he decided, what else will be booking the women's division better? If I did a title switch out of nowhere, that would book the women's division better. Okie dokie. So Hikaru Shida, who has not been on television regularly in over a year, I'm saying this girl was ice cold, who apparently won a number one contenders match on the least watched show in the AEW archive, and she defeats Toni Storm despite the 3-on-1 advantage. And you can see that most of the crowd simply didn't care, really. Most of the crowd really didn't care. Look, I like Hikaru Shida, to be quite honest. I think that she was underutilized while she was the world champion. I think she was underutilized after her run was over. The problem we got here is that she is underutilized. Look, all right, let's take a back up. I already said that about Shida. Toni Storm felt to me like she never really got off the ground. To me, it seemed like Toni Storm was waiting for something. She seemed like to be in a holding pattern, right? And I know the idea was that maybe she was going to feud longer with Jamie Hayter, but then Jamie got injured. And it felt like she was just in that pocket. She was going to defend the title against random opponents and win, but she wasn't really going to get into a program because we were waiting for somebody else. We were waiting for something else. And now she just drops the title randomly. Seems weird. Now, unless this is going to start a feud where, she's going to continue chasing Hikaru Shida for the title, this came across as being incredibly random. And I don't think it does either girl any favors, because Hikaru Shida is, again, this story is not anything anybody's been invested in, because there is no story. It's just Shida won a title match. She won the right to wrestle a champion. She wrestled the champion and won. Tony was the champion. She wasn't involved in any storylines with anybody, except maybe she was a part of this group, and she managed to lose with a 3-on-1 advantage, which is fine, for a heel to have, cream on their face. But to me, I would have preferred if there was emotional investment in this. There was no emotional investment in this. It was hot-shotting, if we're being honest. You wanted to leave the show with something important, and you wanted to try to get people to buy into this as you're booking the women's division better. But this comes across as being even more disorganized, because Toni Storm didn't have any momentum, and neither did Shida. They had no business even being in the main event. Why were they in the main event? They were in the main event because Tony Khan was feeling the pressure from, wrestling fans to book the women's division better. So he decided that he was just going to position them last and then switch the title to make it seem like something special had occurred. When in reality, nothing special had occurred, because Toni Storm was cold. Shida was cold. This match was cold. And then the finish was actually very interesting, if we're being honest. But the finish, it got over with some people, but most people just didn't care, because they didn't really get themselves into this match. And it's very unfortunate, because, again, Shida is very good, but I see her basically being a closet champion again. She's going to be the champion for a little while, but then, she's going to vanish. She's going to be on Rampage. She's going to be doing mid-card stuff on Collision, and that's probably going to be it. It's very unfortunate. I think Toni Storm had the opportunity to do a lot more as the champion, but Tony Khan never put his foot on the gas. For some reason, he just would not do it. Now, Shida's got the opportunity, but it's pretty much the same thing with her as the last time she was the champion. She was in the closet, and she basically only popped up to lose the belt. So I don't see how that's going to be any different, because her presentation hasn't changed. Shida is the same person she was when she won the title last time. If she had turned heel, a fresh coat of paint or something, then this might be a little bit more interesting. But it's same babyface Shida she's been for 4 years. And people are going to be interested, but they're not going to be invested. And they're not invested in this storyline or this match because there's no reason to. Everybody involved is ice cold. Everybody's coming off of doing some really low card stuff. So it is what it is. But congratulations to Hikaru Shida. She's a 2-time world champion. This rules. I just hopefully they have an actual plan with her now, and they're actually going to do something with her. But I also think it was pretty weird of them to change the title before Wembley, when it seemed like that might have been the more natural time to do it. But then again, I don't know what they have planned for the Wembley show. Maybe they got something really planned for that show, and Shida being the champion is important to that. I don't see what would be more important that you couldn't have done it with Tony, but whatever. Maybe they're going to pay Mercedes Moné, and she's going to come in and wrestle Shida and beat her for the title. Maybe. I would hope so. I would hope that would be the reason why you would have done this title switch, is that so Mercedes can finally come in and beat a Japanese girl for your title as her way of coming into the company. Because he definitely needs that in order to save his women's division. Because just hot-shotting the title from one cold girl to another one ain't going to do you much good. It's not going to change people's perceptions of that you don't care about the women's division. What makes people believe that you care is if you actually invest time in it. That's what you have to do. You have to try to invest some time into this thing. But Tony Khan doesn't really invest too much time in anything. That's why I was so surprised by the AR Fox Swerve thing that I really, really loved. and the MJF and Adam Cole thing, which people have been really enjoying. It's because you've invested time in those things. You did backstage vignettes. You let these characters grow. You showed what they like, what they dislike, how they get along, what their relationship is. You've shown that stuff on screen. People are now connecting with these characters. That's what you should be doing. That's what you always should have been doing. Most of all, though, Dynamite 200 was pretty boring. It sucked. I nodded off a couple of times. Most of these matches were stuff I was not interested in at all. So, I mean, it's typical Dynamite. Well, what do you guys think? Like, share, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out, boy.